Hey guys, we're here today with our first generation Mazda CX-9. We've identified a top 5 problems list that we're going to go over with you today. Every car has their problem. Let's go through the top 5 on this one. Now the first problem we're going to talk about is right up under here, under your hood. It's going to be underneath this plastic cover and it's going to be a squeak. Sometimes you'll hear it from the bottom of your dashboard, sometimes you'll hear it from out just around your fender area, but it's going to be coming from your strut mounts, either your driver or your passenger side. You definitely want to check these out. Sometimes when you're going over bumps, going over speed bumps, or just driving, you'll hear some weird squeaks coming from this general area or the other side. Lift up this plastic cover, take a look at your strut mounts underneath, see if they're in good shape. So this job, you can see, is somewhat easy to at least get to and identify the problem. Once you've identified the problem, if it is the strut mount on top, you want to go ahead and replace that. If it turns out to be a little bit more than that and it is the strut itself, you can go ahead and get those parts at AWD.com. I suggest you do both sides at the same time. If you are going to do struts, might as well do both sides at the same time if you're going to do the mounts as well. Make sure you get rid of that issue from the beginning. Now we have another problem under the hood, but we're going to keep going in the line of noises, move down here to our second problem. Coming down to the second problem, going to be a lot like the first in regards to it's going to be a noise. Could be that you're hearing some noise from the driver's side or the passenger side. Most of the times, it's going to be when your wheel's rotating. So it's going to be somewhat hard to figure out. But if you can dial it down to either your front or your rear wheel, it's going to most likely be the wheel bearings. Sometimes they're just old and need to be replaced. So if you get down into it and you get to take your wheel off, you're going to find this surface here. This is actually the hub part of your wheel bearing. It's going to press into a whole wheel bearing. So when your wheel is rotating, that's where you're getting your noise from. Either the bearing inside here is gone, meaning corroded or rusted or just had its life. This is the part you're going to need to replace. Sometimes they come with or without the hub already pressed in. You can find these parts at AWD.com. So our third problem on this Mazda CX-9 is right here in the driver's side, right where your left foot is, right behind your kick panel. It's going to be a BCM or a body control module. It's going to be behind your kick panel, slightly up a little bit. There have been notes of the sunroof drain not draining all the way out of the vehicle. That'll get backed up and actually cause water damage onto your BCM. So you're going to want to make sure your sunroof drains drain all the way out. Sometimes you'll need to clean them periodically, either from the top side or the bottom side. So now we're going to talk about our fourth problem. It's going to be hard shifting and transmission slipping. It's going to happen typically when your transmission's warm or when it's warmed up. You'll notice that going into gear, you're going to be a little jerky going into gear, or it's going to be really hesitant going into gear. It's going to wind up and then eventually drop into gear. It can be caused by a few things. Sometimes your check engine light won't actually tell you what's going on. It'll just do it without letting you know there's an issue. Most commonly, it's going to be in your programming of your computer. So you're going to need to take your vehicle to a dealership and have it reprogrammed. Sometimes that fixes it, sometimes it won't. Unfortunately, if it doesn't fix it, it's a sealed unit, meaning there's actually no transmission fluid to exchange. Sometimes that transmission fluid's come to its end of life. Sometimes it needs to be replaced. There's a valve body in your transmission or other components that are going to need to be replaced. It'll be a good deal if you have to replace a couple of components. Sometimes you're going to have to replace the entire transmission. All right, now we're back under the hood for our fifth and final problem. Ignition coils. It's going to be located on the top of your motor, front and back. What that's going to translate to is rough idle. Sometimes a check engine light. It's going to be a MIL light on, check engine light on. You'll notice your car jerking or stuttering, especially when you're stopped at an idle. The car's going to idle high, idle low. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be your ignition coils. So in the 6-cylinder model, you're going to have 6 ignition coils. Once you pull up your top engine cover, 3 are going to be easily accessible. The other 3, however, are going to be down back underneath your intake. So on this model, we recommend doing all 6 at the same time. You probably will need an intake gasket, seeing as you will be removing your intake to get to those coils. You want to do 6 at the same time. It'll save you trouble down the line. And that wraps up our top 5 for this Mazda CX-9. Remember, if you need any parts for your vehicle, remember to visit AWD.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for future notifications on our videos. Every car has their problems. There's problems. Final problem. Ignition coils. You ever Now on to our second problem. If you hear blah, 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 and ring the bell for notifications on our future videos. Mazda.